Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to catch up with friends from the past and new friends. I'm David Nichols, Aussie GP. Suzanne, my wife, we went to China in 2005. We're longtime friends, actually, of Nick and Faye Woolfield. And yeah, so Nick, Faye at least was in the same practice that I was in. And yeah, we've had good connections over many years. So what we're doing is we're now running an agency, a not-for-profit agency called Living Wholeness. And what we primarily do is training, resources, research, and have a community in the Asian region, particularly in the area of mental health. The project we're doing with HealthServe is called Mental Health in Asia, which is primarily a lay counsellor training project. Just a bit of background about Living Wholeness. We now have about 15 courses ranging from 6 to 600 hours and train in about 12 Asian nations. We also collaborate with 4 Asian seminaries and 2 Australian theology colleges. What we basically teach is a thing called the Christian Wholeness Framework, which has 5 steps. Encouraging people to connect before they connect to undergird their understanding of the person and then respond, but not prematurely, engaging help when needed and evaluating the process. Very simple, but very transferable and teachable, we find. And then we also have 5 shapes, which are, I won't go into all the depth of them, but they're biblical, holistic, God-centered. It's a picture language that seems to cross cultural gaps in Asia well, and people like it. There's a high uptake of it, and it seems to apply to all the cultures that we've taught this in so far. It's very strong on the 4 domains of personal transformation, growth in your attitudes, developing skills for counselling, as well as growing your knowledge. A lot of Asian settings, we find people are strong on learning skills, but particularly learning knowledge, but not so strong in the transformation and growth in attitude. So they really like this kind of quadrilateral approach. As many would be aware, there's lots of articles and people talking about the global tsunami of mental health need due to COVID. But really in Asia, there was a massive health need before. There is, and there always, I think, will be for quite a while, significant mental health needs due to so many issues, you know, traumas, genocides, wars, refugees, orphans. You know, there's just a massive list of causes of that mental health need, as well as underlying, you know, plain genetic, I guess, inherited mental health disease. Yeah, so WHO and UN and many other people increasingly validate and request training of lay counsellors. I just want to play you a short video here. So this is just a 2-minute video of, I think, about 5 or 6 nations where we're running our project.
One area that they've been particularly lacking in is counselling, trained counsellors. But what we've discovered is that there's a huge sense of keenness, of need, of readiness to have some kind of training.
I work as a Christian counsellor. Life is very hard because of earthquake, landslide, and this pandemic. And many people went through depression, and the suicide rates are so high. We are using Christian counseling to plant churches, strengthen leaders. We really need your continuous prayer support to help them.
We are counseling people struggling with their pain, trauma, uncertainty, and confusion. In our culture, generally, emotional and psychological issues are hidden behind. It is acceptable to seek help for physical disorder, but psychological aid is a taboo.
I think having a living wholeness lay counselors training is very important. We really do need a qualified lay counselors to be able to deal with the trauma and the things that's happening in Cambodia. I think that living wholeness is both integrative as well as comprehensive. It really deals with every sector of a person to help the person's social and environment aspect of it. I think that living wholeness is just wonderful framework.
Lay counseling is such a new idea in this country. I mean, counseling itself is a new idea in this country. So if we able to train lay counselors in the church, it would give us great benefit in the church as well as outside.
This course has transformed their lives, and we have seen some tremendous inroads into Indian churches. This has been a great blessing for us as well as for the community around us.
One area that's
yeah, and just to say, all of those people and others are people we've trained and now have become trainers with our system. Suzanne?
Yeah, so it began in 2008 in China when we were responding to the mental health needs, the counselling training needs that came upon us. We didn't plan to go there and train people in counselling because it's cross-cultural, bilingual, but that was the request. And so we developed and refined, and we say Chinese were our guinea pigs, and they say that's, you know, maishu, white mice. And so then from there it's grown to be being trained around Asia. So this process of training locals so that they could then train their own people in lay counselling was well in place pre-COVID. And so we were sort of quite amazed how God had us placed ready as COVID hit. We had people who were ready to roll out the lay counselling training so that they could equip the people in their local churches and communities to help others with mental health issues. Next one. So our project has 2 phases, and phase 1 has been developing the lay counselling training, and the people that we have trained then go out and train others. So a goal of having trained 150 lay counsellors over 18 months in 6 different Asian nations. The first unit is a 60-hour unit, and we've now got a translated textbook into 6 languages. The teacher's manual and the student's manual is translated. Our goal is that we would have local living wholeness trained trainers who will speak and teach in their local language. We're researching it. We have several pre and post questionnaires to see the efficacy. And there's been a budget of 20,000, which has been fully funded for this first round. Next one. So the course content, what we teach, we often find that people who want to come and help others have unaddressed wounds, unaddressed issues of themselves. And so very, very important that the person who helps is reasonably healthy. So we apply the principles of wholeness first to ourselves, and we want to model that as teachers and be authentic, as well as then encouraging students with that. We focus on those skills of connecting and understanding and listening well to get a whole picture. Often in Asia, as in the West, sometimes you go for help and someone goes, oh, this is your problem, this is the answer, and it doesn't fit. So once we do good connecting and good understanding, then how we respond, the response tools are much more effective. We also really focus on helping the local people understand what their referral network can be, and that will include their trainers, because their trainers are counsellors. So often, if they've hit a problem that's above their head, teaching them to realise that and then find help, including supervision. We teach basic mental health issues, anxiety, depression, bipolar, and things like suicide. And the supervision offered between phase 1 and phase 2 and onwards, because we've seen the impact of people being trained but then not supported and either falling through the cracks or burning out. Next. The process that we use of teaching is the task that David's referred to. We do team teaching. So often there's a few more senior teachers, and then we're bringing on board the people that you've seen in the videos as apprentice teachers, so that then the next time they can teach themselves. We have transformational groups, which are often one of the most favourite parts of the course, where people share personally how they're growing and changing. We have skills groups, lots of demonstrations, and FAP groups seem to be a favourite, which is share, aware, prayer. And they're smaller groups that will go on to be support structures for the lay counsellors. The impact just seems to be transformational. I think because we're trying to do it across all those areas, and our teachers really put a lot into it, seems to be highly valued by those who do it, and also really practical. So people will go out and, you know, we've had reports this week. We got trained last week. We're already using the material. It's making such a difference. I know how to manage a case. I know what I'm looking at. I know how to assess. So I just want to share a story of Ying, who is the lovely lady on the left. She heads up the Thailand Christian Counselling Association, and she's had a vision to train, equip and empower lay counsellors in her church. So on the screen, there are 3 of her training team who are local, and one lady, Dr. Esther Wakeman, who speaks Thai. And then you can see David and John Morlow and I just in there visiting. They did one course. It was all online. They were ready to do face-to-face, but it had to be done online, which took 2 lots of 10 weeks. They then did another cohort of students, which they did as a 2-week intensive. They reported that it really made a dramatic difference in people. Things from getting wounds healed from the past that people have been carrying for a long, long time. And that was the leader of a training institute who shared that. A Catholic nun shared that it was a place where she really found that she could relate to other aspects of Christian faith and felt encouraged and supported. A leader of a palliative care team shared that it really gave her skills to go beyond the surface and to go deeper into what some of the issues are. In Mongolia, where it's being run also, there's people working in prisons, people working with street kids, people working in orphanages. So the people who are getting trained are quite diverse, but having an impact in their community. Ying has now decided she's ready to go for phase 2. And that's the next level of the lay counsellor. So we're sort of writing it together as she's delivering it. And it's a combination of further training and also supervision.
Just to say too, we've got 2 people in Pakistan who are now helping people across the border from Afghanistan, and they're looking at teaching this course in Urdu to people in some of the Pakistani churches at the border there, so they can help with debriefing refugees. They brought about 60 people across the border in the last couple of weeks.
Right.
Yeah. And then just to say, we're looking towards doing phase 2, really just a similar thing, but at a more advanced level. And the budget for that's 15,000. We've already raised 10,000 of that. And then, yeah, just it's that kind of the sense of our community. We've got a very strong, volunteer, loving, gracious, and wise community. Questions, feedback, comments appreciated.